Hello, ladies and gentlemen. 5v5 is once again upon us. Starting tomorrow, we're going to be matched up in brackets, and I am personally looking forward to it. I didn't enjoy this 3v3 season as much as I have before, maybe because this new Datacron set is not something that I can make use of very quickly. But I put up this screen, and I saw that it just points to where you are. It says you at Kyber 1. It makes me feel good about myself to be in the top league, but that feeling might be temporary because if we look at the cutoffs, my rating is 3667 and I'm ranked 263 right now. It's going to change as people join. It's only 3 hours after the event started, so we're going to get way more in, but I'm only 2 losses away from falling out of Kyber 1 entirely, and that's just the skill squash problem getting closer and closer to making Kyber 1 almost non-existent. But anyway, this episode is about talking about how I'm going to split my offense and defense. And I'm going to start with offense for this one, or defense. So I'm going to try not showing the graphics today, because sometimes I do diverge from the advice that I give in those graphics. Basically, it's just, you got to decide what you're going to go for, heavy offense or heavy defense, and plan accordingly. For me, I like to go heavy offense, so I like to keep as much as I can and then set things that I might not know how to use on offense to their maximum potential, but might trip people up. And right now, there seem to be a lot of teams that I'm not going to be able to beat a Galactic Legend with, but it might cause problems for my opponent and might draw a strong team. One example is Treya, and I'm not bringing Treya on offense for Reva because I think Mo's going to work swimmingly. I've had a great experience in Squad Arena, and yes, I know there's the Omicrons in Grand Arena, but from what I've seen, I think it should still handle it fairly well. And if it doesn't, if it fails for me, then I'll go back to trying this. But this is pretty much a Galactic Legend draw. I love setting this on defense. I take Talon away from, what is it, Malgus, and Malgus gets Sith Marauder. But the Datacron I gave to this Treya team is high crit avoidance, and I'm interested to see how this does, because this is going to make it an even more difficult team to beat unless you use like Sith Eternal Emperor or something, because in Treya's leadership she gives Sith allies 40% crit avoidance. So if you do the math, that is over 80% critical avoidance for the whole team, and that makes it very difficult to land any crits. There's also some extra protection there which should help. I am happy to use my Cal Kestis in my Ray team for 5v5 for the first time. This should cause quite some issues with off-meta counters. I don't know if he's going to make a huge problem for like a Starkiller team, but this Datacron definitely does. The 100% crit avoid makes it hard to get rid of Inspired on Ray in particular, and that causes a lot of issues, and her damage ramps crazy high against Starkiller, and she makes a mess of them. So that's why I'm using that resistance Datacron instead of an UFU one. It applies to 3 out of 5, same as an unaligned force user 1 would. And the rest of my resistance I have with Zori. And this team I think works better in 5v5 than 3v3. It's a little bit harder to deal with. Starkiller is pretty much a hard counter, but otherwise it's fantastic. There's tons of stuff. Stealth is dispelled again on bonus turn. There's more bonus turns to go around. The dude tenacity down. I'm not super well versed in it actually. I just know it's good. And this particular team does have a lot of target each other abilities with the resistance hero bros. Zori gets bonuses for fins and pose, and it's literally 2 fins and 2 pose. So pretty good combo there. Great front wall team. And then my sortie team, I'm using the same lineup I used before. Last 5v5, we still had the turn meter Datacron that gave 20% turn meter and made Dark Trooper go first, and I still had trouble finding use for Imperial Troopers. So this season, I'm just going to start out using Dark Trooper in this lineup and see what it does. Because yeah, he got a lot of people off guard, and there's not too many instances of it. I think what happens a lot is with Sortie's second special, she gives advantage to the weakest ally, so that'll be Dark Trooper every time because of how his stacks work, and then he can land a massive blow with a critical hit because that's the only way he can crit. This is just a great Datacron I have for them, and he gets the benefit of all that armor penetration. So this was kind of a dud in 3v3, but I think it needs all the working parts, all the moving parts to work out. You can't just have BB-8 and T3 or T3 and a tank or something. You need everything. So that is the front wall. Just trying to put teams that are difficult to deal with and you don't want to use something on them. On the top wall, got Malgus and General Skywalker as always. I was able to give them some good protection. Both of them, which should help out. This stacking offense, I don't think that's really going to come into play. They don't have a lot of buffs. But it was just what I had to use. And yeah, 38% protection, that's great. Some extra crit damage, that's fantastic. And they are going to get a lot of offense from those buffs if the battle goes long enough. And CLS and Chupio, this is something, I think it's still pretty good on defense. I have to go back and check. But I got the Retribution, which helps with them. And on offense, this would pretty much be like overkill for things. I might switch it up. This is one that might be a switch hitter. And this one I'm kind of happy with. This is going to be pretty interesting, actually. I got Afra with her murder bots, then IG-11 and Queel. And there's a particular interaction I have in mind that's going to be pretty nice. So I have plus 200% potency there. Which is just great for Afra in general. But when you have IG-11 and Queel here, or just Queel, he shares 40% of his max health, offense, and potency. And with all that extra potency, he has a starting potency of 263%. So 40% is over 100% potency. So in addition to the crazy 200% potency, they're getting like another 100% potency. And Afra, well, that'll put her at like almost 500% potency to start. Her uniques, it shares extra stats equal to 30% of her potency, so that's going to be like 150% almost. It's going to be pretty crazy. And I do have the Omicron for her leadership, which gives lots of crit avoidance, gives speed. Oh, it actually plus 50% potency, so yeah, she is going to have over 500% potency. She probably has extra potency somewhere else too. It's all over the place. This kit is pretty deep. But I'm interested to see how that's going to go. It's not going to be easy. Having a tank there even stops like CLS counters. And I'm not sure. I don't know. Maybe it can handle Jabba. I'm actually going to have to test that out a little bit in Arena. And then maybe the Omicron will push it over the edge. If it can, then I would definitely switch this to offense. And so this is just the wall that I want to show people. This is something you have to deal with later, even after you get past the bottom. And in the back, I don't have anything too particularly deadly right now. I still need to figure out how my counters are going to go for Galactic Legends. Right now I'm bringing 6, which is probably too many, but I got to feel it out in this first week. This is kind of a weird experimental team. I have the Geos, all the ones I have are 5, so no Poggle, and then Trench. With his Datacron, I cannot give Trench his full team. I absolutely need Watt. At least if I'm facing someone with Reva, and that's going to be more and more common. I still don't have her. But the level 6 in particular should be great for Geonosians. It's the Daze immunity, and once they use a special, they get riposte. And then if they're all attacking out of turn all the time, they should deal some pretty crazy damage. And Trench can call them all to assist. His clauses exclude droids more. It doesn't really exclude Geonosians. So I hope maybe this can work. It probably will just get blown over by something, but I just want to try it out. And then Dash, he's getting some smuggler leftovers, rejects that it should have a different home, but they don't. Kind of like I put Santa with him. I'm not going to run a full Santa team on her own. It's not good enough, in my opinion. But Hondo there, I have the Omicron. That should help. This level 9 is not active. With level 6 and level 3 are, and this applies to everyone. So the turn meter is going to be nice, especially with Dash. He does tons of debuffs. This is a pretty decently debuff heavy team for a light side team. Got some good resistance, so that should help. Stand against some teams like Giant Revan or something. And L3 is there playing the tank, and then also GG Squad. And I love the Datacron I have for it. It's the target lock one with the turn meter, so that should work well. Newt is probably the best 5th add. I can't spare BB-8, so that's why he's there. So I really just don't have a Trench's whole team to give to him. Everyone is busy elsewhere. But this is great for Grievous. He's got almost 45% health, which is really going to supercharge him. A little bit of armor penetration. I would prefer more, but it's also got great potency too. So yeah, 173k health, and I have the crit damage triangle. So and plenty of potency. So if people get caught off guard, they could yeah, really drop some battles there. And lastly, just the ships I have set. I'm leaving what I had from last 5v5. I just want to go heavy offense with ships. For now, I took the the best fleets in the game before Executor came around. Then plus Radis, and then for offense I'll have Executor, Profundity, and then one Empire fleet, which I can put everything onto. And then the cleanups will be like Finalizer and Home 1. So yeah, I just don't even want to mess around with fleets to begin with. I just want to be able to clear, get through it, and try to win on efficiency. And now that brings us to my offensive squads, which is a lot of it's a product of what I didn't want to give up for defense yet. But some of that I can tell you right now is definitely going to switch out over time. Springleader Kylo, I don't have a specific use in mind. He can do a lot of things. So it might be solo potential, and then you have a Hux team with First Order TIE Pilot Omicron. But he is not going to be super reliable on defense, so I just want him on offense, no matter what. Lord Vader, it might end up being a Jabba counter. You kind of need Maul in there over like Thrawn, but as I said with my Imperial Trooper team, I'm not as confident with them anymore. So I have Piet listed here as my 5th, which it could be an option. Right near here, this is all Empire. You kind of want an unaligned Force user in there at least, but this is a team I usually switch up. Maybe I'll take Rey with it. I don't know if Cal permanently shuts that down, but it's just really hard to get through them to get enough damage. So it's hard to know what to do with him. If they don't have Reva and I can spare Maul, I'll probably put him on defense with Maul. But as of now, I'm anticipating facing a lot of Revas. And then we have the Jedi splits, which doesn't mean a whole lot in preparation because it all depends on what I need for the actual counter. This one listed here is all kind of the non-Old Republics that you can spare. But if you're trying to take on like Rey or something, you kind of want like Revan in there or something. Or Yoda can, well, Yoda's not totally great because of the Terminator gain, and Hermit Yoda is not the best either. It all just depends. I switch that up when it comes time, when it comes down to it. Sith Eternal, I end up using him just pure solo a lot against like Malgus, so I don't know, maybe he'd use the armor and Sith Empire Trooper, but if I can't spare Watt, I'll have to pick off something easier with him. And then my ace in the hole here is JMK. I need to switch this because I do not plan on using those. I plan on using the best two, which is, to finish off, which is GK and Ahsoka. I do have Mace available. I didn't set Qui-Gon Jinn on defense. I might change that up, but it's kind of like Bad Batch fodder. I'll just use GK and Ahsoka Tano, and I'm not really willing to part with them for that on defense. And for now, I have Jabba set for offense, but that's actually something I can probably go on defense as well. It just depends, and that's going to be an audible I'll call at game time when I see my opponent. But they are super useful on offense. They can take out JMK, which is hard to take out otherwise, unless you use JMK, and JML's kind of risky. It's also great for Rey, and if I was going against Rey, I'd probably sub in Embo there instead of Boba. Boba works fine too. Boba is great for a JMK counter because he avoids taunts and you can get more hits on Commander Tano early with him and Jabba targeting her, and you get a lot of assists there too. So I'm kind of overkilling it on offense with the GLs right now, but who knows? I do switch it up from match to match, so if you're my opponent, you cannot trust this. Inquisitors have for offense, there's some niche uses for them. I'm not exactly sure how to use them. I do have some unaligned Force user datacrons, so I can try to get creative with them. But at the end of the day, just don't trust them on defense. Not for holds, not really for any kind of like legend draws, which are the big reasons to set teams. And then Starkiller. This is also a great option for Ray. I aim to try it out, actually, because with the Marjade Datacron for level 9 that I have, and the level 6 for Underland Force users, I think this should actually be pretty good against Ray. It should take out some of the uncertainty that was there before, even with Cal there, even with a Ben Solo Datacron, because Shock shuts down a lot of that, shuts down healing, shuts down turn meter, and prevents that plus 100% damage. So this is going to be very useful. And then I have the rest of my Jedi split. This is kind of the classic team. It's just Old Republic Jedi and Yoda, but can't put too much stock into that because I switch it up at game time, like most of this. And then this is the Reva counter, which I crafted a while ago, and I mean, every time I tried it in Grand Arena, I won with it. One time there wasn't an Omicron. Yeah, I think I tried it every time. Well, no. I only tried it 1 or 2 times. I forget. I know I ended up using JMK against Reva after Treya failed. Because to fight Trey, you need Talon and Savage. But if this ends up failing, then I'll switch back to using that Treya team with Savage and Talon. But basically, you get the weapon tech on Maul. He gets to go. Then Canderous is going to go after he gets turn meter. And then you take out Reva. And most of the time, it's easy to get the kill with Maul and prevent the revive. But sometimes it can be tricky. And it's hard. I'm not going to tell everyone it's like 100% or anything. But I do have faith in it. And now we're to the part of the offense, which are offense-only teams. I would not sit on defense because they're just way too easy to work around. Bad Batch is pretty easy to get around, but on offense, it's usually a pretty clean 65 banners if you pick the right team. Same with Iden, although Iden I'm not able to use as much lately. I would probably need to invest more relics in them to make them more bulky, make them do more damage, but my R5 roster across the board, this is a perfect example of it. All these guys are just R5, no more, no less, just for Datacrons. I could improve it, but this sometimes can be a CLS team, but not really with that Chupio Datacron, and sometimes it's cleanup. I don't know. But they're never considered for defense. Bounty Hunters, I have put them on defense at some point in the past. Recently, when it wasn't probably the best idea, so I'm keeping them on offense. There is potential to fight Lord Vader with Bounty Hunters straight up, I think, if they don't have Maul. And then I'd probably have Boba Fett in here too. Probably Fennec lead for that case, Grief and Mando, Zam, and maybe I'd leave out Boss and just have Boba. I don't know. It's hard to say, but definitely a cleanup team on Lord Vader for sure. Wampa, I hope will have more use in this 5v5 with all that protection up. And I changed the name of the Imperial Troopers to Laid Off Cops because right now I don't see a huge use for them. Maybe I could use Moff Gideon with the Gidme team in 5v5. I'm sure there's some uses for that, but I don't think I'm going to use these guys that often, sadly. And I've already committed to that by putting Dark Trooper on defense. It's just, I don't know. And this team, if I do keep Piet with Veers instead of Lord Vader, it's like an old school Trooper team before Dark Trooper. You still get a turn meter train going. It just takes longer to get the kills, but you do have a lot of buffs to go around. So if you have like Colonel Stark instead of Dark Trooper there, you're getting extra buffs. So it's not a total loss. And then just some leftover teams, not totally leftover, but Radis, I'm sure I can find some cheese with him on offense. On defense, I think my team is particularly easy to get around, just because I don't have great tanks. You really want K2SO to make it reliable in defense. Like a couple tanks optimally, and they are low my mod priority, not great relics, so who knows. And then Mon Mothma, they actually do have some niche uses you can use it for. They can be sortie squads if you're in a pinch, and otherwise, I don't know, maybe a cleanup team. But these are teams I have not really considered for defense, but I might. But the ones near the top are teams I might consider for defense at some point. And last team I just added, as I mentioned, I didn't set Qui-Gon Jinn on defense, so I do have him available for offense right now. And even if I don't use a Qui-Gon team specifically, it really opens up flexibility to use with Jedi. Having basically all my Jedi on offense really lets me pick and choose what I want to use. Mace Windu is pretty useful in a variety of teams because he's dispelling stealth, and his Shatterpoint mechanics are very nice for getting around taunts. Ki-Adi-Mundi is a big damage dealer. And Anakin can split off and go with Padme if I decide to run a Padme team. But who knows? So there's a lot of stuff that can be done with this. And it keeps Ayla on offense in case I want to do Gidme. Just a lot of things that can open up with just having all my Jedi on offense. So that's it for my thought process on how I'm splitting my roster for offense and defense this 5v5 season. I'd love to hear from you how you're splitting yours. But anyway, if you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Really appreciate it. Helps out the channel. All right, thanks, and see you later.